Hey, it's Chase from Sorcery Contested Realm, and today we're talking about getting started with sorcery as a newcomer with Naoki, aka Haine, from Wizard's Den, one of the premier YouTube content creators covering Sorcery Contested Realm. Haine, thanks so much for coming on to speak with us.
Thanks for inviting me.
So it was actually a pleasure getting to meet you at Gen Con, where actually you helped serve as a head judge. You get to play some games, and then you're also like a really big part of helping us foster a positive play community. That involved you flying halfway around the world, which is a pretty big commitment. So I guess that kind of leads into like, what about sorcery grabs you so much that got you interested into the game and got you involved to the point where you're flying around the world to play in the first official tournament.
Um, I guess the first part is that this game was really very interesting for me. I've been playing like other TCGs, but this is the first time I've got involved into it. First of all, it's a first Kickstarter kind of
Hmm.
TCG that I got involved, and also it was so interesting because the reason why you know try to play sorcery is this I will say like tactical grid. I don't know what the correct terminology for these
Yeah,
kind of genres because they don't really actually exist.
right.
But I'll just say tactical grid style TCG. It was really new for me. I'm not like a board game guy. I'm a TCG and like heavy Pokemon player. And
Hmm.
I don't really play those kind of games, and that was really interesting. And the more I like dived into this game, I realized how this game has so much depth just by adding one element, which is movement, into this TCG thing. It's not casting spells and just responding to your opponent's moves or doing whatever uh, without any proximity. But this game allows you to have this kind of very like a different interaction. You need to first think about how you position yourself, and you need to think about how your opponent might position yourself, and what your opponent. Well, this one is a little similar, but what your opponent might have in their hand, and how that would like interrupt any of your own movements. And movements are very critical in this game, and it really generates huge amount of options just by that component itself. And that was very like that complexity was something I was looking for. And yes, there are other TCGs that are complex, but this is a new kind of complexity that I just find out with this game. So
And
I think that was why I was so intrigued by this game.
yeah,
That's sort of why I really deeply involved in the gameplay of this card game.
yeah. And actually, now that I think about it, you flew all that way around the world to Gen Con, and I think you actually might have got the first game of sorcery at the event, like before
Yeah,
things even kicked off. I think you sat down and you played a game. So I think you kind of christened the whole gameplay experience there.
yeah. I was actually playing the print and play stuff with my girlfriend.
Hmm.
Um, that's the only experience, not like with constructed stuff and
Right.
all the, the with the actual cards and
Yeah.
stuff. I was actually
Well,
doing solitaire, so
well, yeah, that's what you're practicing there. And you
yeah.
actually, on your YouTube channel, you've got a variety of content from rules breaks down to even recently you got some unboxing videos of just like alpha content. Um,
Mhm.
what was it like opening up your first box of sorcery? Because you've been covering the game in a variety of formats long before you even got cards in hand. So when you finally got
Yeah.
to open them up, what was that like?
So I guess it's a little bit different for like a guy like me who's been playing for like a year. There are those guys who just got the product and just
Right.
forgot about the Kickstarter. It's a little bit different because I, we don't really have like a new expectation, right? It's like, but
Hmm.
it's all going to be like, oh, I want that. I hope I get it. it's,
Right.
it's a
Well, but
completely
that's what
different.
I'm wondering about because like sometimes people are like all about the art and like that's all they want, and then some people are like all about the gameplay. And as
Yeah.
someone who is so invested in the gameplay, like what was it like getting the cards in hand? Uh,
Yeah, it was very like it's like, oh, this is the final version of the card. It's like I'm so happy to get this. Great, I need that for my deck. That's good, good. No, I didn't want this one. I want another
yeah.
one.
Oh,
So you
how's your
don't give me that. I guess a
how,
new feeling for me was the foil cards because that's something that I didn't really touch it, and I
mhm.
didn't really see it for real. So that was actually new. Yeah, those foil cards were really intriguing. The backside, especially because you don't really see the full art,
Yeah.
and you get to see, oh, okay, that's how the hidden part, I guess. You know, the normal card, you're gonna have the text box, and
Yeah.
there's hidden back there, and you get to see that part, and it's really cool to see those part. Unfortunately, I'm not a real foil guy in that sense.
Mhm.
I'm more like a non-foil dude. I don't particularly like shiny cards much, but
Okay.
but
Well, and then
yeah,
how's your overall collection then? Are you getting pretty how's that binder looking?
yeah. So I already made a non-foil full collection, and
All
also
right.
yeah. So I already have all everything. Right now, I'm just preparing another play set because I want to have two sets, so I can always have two deck individual decks that can be made.
Fair
So I can
enough.
play somebody. So
Well, so transitioning from someone who's got the full non-foil set, let's say someone is new and they're just entering the contested realm for the first time. Maybe they're jumping in with beta on November 10th. Do you have any general tips or advice for folks maybe who are starting sorcery for the first time?
the first advice is make sure you play the precons. You play the precons and make sure you explore the basic cards before you jump in and start doing some constructive play.
Hmm.
And if you're going to go to constructive play, I would advise you to just net deck. I mean, that's the best thing you should do. What you should do is you should grab one of those very strong, experienced players decks. For example, like Zaylan, Jesse. It can be mine also. Um, and try to get the best decks and play with a tier one very strong deck and make
Hmm.
sure you practice those decks so that you understand you can pilot it at like maximum efficiency. The sorcery is without any like trying to like make it difficult, but it is a very complex game. And in order to like grasp all the movements and all the card interactions is in fact really complex. And it does take time. And jumping into just, you know, making decks from scratch is quite a lot of, just step up. So I would just recommend first just net deck and just copy the deck and just study that deck and keep playing with it. And
Hmm.
like understand how you need to win. And then after that, you can probably make your own stuff. But I guess that's the first advice
Okay.
I
And
would
that would be
give.
great. Remember to go to, for people watching for the first time, curiosa.io is the official deck builder. And on there, you can search by people's names. Like you mentioned, a few people, yourself, of course, Jesse from the Winning Agenda, Zalem, who is a longtime community contributor and was second place at the Gen Con tournament. So, searching by people, you can find their specific decks to look at. Um, so yeah, great advice. I'm always kind of poking around there trying to find interesting things, if not to take directly, but to be like, what sort of combos are people doing? Um, or how do people approach decks very differently than me? Which maybe gives me insight into how I need to maybe work to improve my deck building.
Yeah.
So when when it comes to actually constructing decks, then right. So maybe you take someone's deck and you're studying it. One of the fun things about sorcery, and you're kind of hinting at, is kind of the depth of the gameplay, right? Where it's like I can just copy a deck, but then I actually have to be able to pilot it, right? Like you have to be able to put it on the table and move the pieces. It's not just about playing the cards. You have to think about how the strategy there. And so maybe picking a deck, like you're saying, and then just kind of practicing over and over can be a really great way of like starting to understand certain types of play or mechanics and really familiarizing yourself with that. When you do make that first jump to constructing decks, like how do you start to construct a deck? Like, do you normally prioritize like picking an avatar and building around it, or do you pick like a certain number of combo of cards and work around that? Like, what is your approach to building decks, and maybe what are some of the things that influence the decisions you're making when you are constructing a deck?
I guess the two ways you can build your deck is first around thinking about which avatar you're going to use, because the
Mm-hmm.
avatar itself has different abilities that you can specifically like abuse it to actually lead you to win, or you can think about other cards and then assign an avatar that actually works very well with it. And I use both approaches. So um when I'm thinking about using Avatar Earth, then maybe it's around I'll choose the avatar for Earth first, and
Mm-hmm.
then think about what I can use with it. So that in that case, I'm thinking the avatar first. But in other decks, like trying to use certain set of artifacts
Mm-hmm.
or certain set of sites, then maybe I'll think about the cards first and then assign an appropriate avatar. Maybe perhaps I might present you with one of the decks that I was
Yeah.
building around right now. It's called Implant 2. And so this is Implant 2. There was an Implant 1. There was a first version. That's a little bit different one. So I just call it Implant. So
You're
I'm lazy.
iterating at it already. This is also, I just want to say, I'm so excited to talk to you because I'm often a player who like goes so heavy by theme and story, where I'm like, I'm gonna, just go for the flavor of it. And I feel like you have a very scientific approach. So I'm like trying
Yeah.
to soak in as much as I can here to be like, okay, how can I find to meet you halfway and like improve my deck building? So sorry. With that being said, continue on.
Okay. So in this deck, what I wanted to make was a control deck. How can I control the opponent and try to chip away damage and just soak some damage out, soak damage and just put him death's door, slowly killing him and just finish him off. That was sort of theme. So I wanted to make a control theme deck, and the particular artifact that I wanted to use, which you can scroll down there, you'll see is the Maddening Bells. And Maddening Bells is a forecasting cost artifact that makes spell cast by nearby spellcasters cost 2 more to cast. Now, this is pretty devastating if you can put it out in your third turn, which is possible because on a first turn you put a site, second turn you put another site, and the third turn you put a tower, and instantaneously you get 4 mana. If you put it on, if you go first and you're able to put that near your opponent, well, on the next turn, your opponent is still effectively going to be restricted to 2 mana
Wow.
cost. And that is pretty devastating if you can get it out. Now, if you get another one, oh, well, it's pretty almost game over, which is not going to happen much, but it is a pretty good.
That's the dream, though, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that is sort of the dream, and that's not going to happen. Now, so if I wanted to use this, then I got to think, how am I going to deliver this to your opponent? Because remember, artifacts can only be cast on your site or into the hands of your minions. Now, you don't want to cast it on your site. So you're going to just restrict yourself. That's going to
Been there, done that.
what am I doing? What you want to do is you want to first cast some minions, cheap minions.
Okay.
And then
I see we've got things like Falconer, Cavalry Bats, as far as assassins.
Mm-hmm. So what you need to do is you need to cast very cheap minions. You need to make them deliver these kind of artifacts. So there are certain kinds of minions over there very cheap. There are no expensive minions except for Clamor Harpies, which cast 4, but that is a little bit different use. So we're going to exclude those. Okay. The main deliverer, I guess, in this site is the Palabry Bats. And what the Palabry Bats does is that it's airborne, it's born. What's so really good about this is that because it's airborne, it doesn't get intercepted. That's number 1 by ground minions. Number 2, you can go around the diagonals, or I should nearby, so that you can put your sites in a obscure way, and it prevents them from coming, but you can go.
Oh, okay.
So that's one of the most interesting parts. And also because it has borrowing, it has resistance against buries, like certain kind of rule spells.
Yeah.
So it is very nice. And also the other good thing about it is that in the artifacts, there's also other artifacts like Devil's Egg, which is really best when you just put it underground so that no one can access it. Yeah,
Man.
so the bats is a really good deliverer in this case. So I am using this. So now, um, the the next question comes: how effectively I can carry these minions to the site. So I've combined it with Avatar of Air. So this is the first. So this is where I actually chose the Avatar. I first
Okay.
thought about how I'm going to think about the delivery system.
This
Then
is a
how
mean. This is a mean deck. This
it
is a this
is
is a diabolical deck. Oh my god.
it is a hateful deck. I played with Julian with this, and he said, "Wow, this is a hateful deck."
Oh, I love it. I love it. All right.
So then you use this avatar. So this is the first time you choose the avatar,
Hmm.
and the avatar of air comes into play. And let me read the avatar of air's ability. And it has a first, the tap, play, draw site, and the second ability is an important one. Once on your turn, if you occupy an air site, you may fly a unit atop to a nearby site. So what you can do is you can cast your minions like very far away from your
Hmm.
opponent's site, so that they can't access it. And then right after, right after, right when you want to put those potent artifacts on them, you just fly that to the nearby site and make them move. So effectively, they have 2 steps that they can take, and then voila, you get your magic bells right in front of your opponent.
Wow.
That's what you get. So that's sort of the main thing: how you can deliver your minions
Hmm.
near your opponent, and then you expand that thing. So how can you like make that more efficient? Not just by the avatar. So you go into sites. There's other sites that you can aid this thing, and there should be a site called Uprat Ridge.
Oh
Now, the
yeah.
Uprat Ridge, what it does is that airborne minions atop Uprat Ridge have movement +1. So now you don't
Wow.
even need the Avatar of Air to actually make the delivery. It gives another option to make this delivery very efficient. And so you build around this. Also, you have Cloud City. Cloud City is a unique site where with you need 3 air thresholds, but once on your turn, this this site itself may fly to a nearby void. So you can actually put your minions up there and move the site itself and put it close to where you wanted it. You want your artifacts to be.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And also, now, after you think about this, you think about, okay, you want to put the Mandy belts, but it's an elite card. There's only 2.
Right.
So that's really not going to do much if you only have 2. So what you think is, what are other options of artifacts that's good to deliver to your opponent? So
Yep.
these are some of the options that I had. The first option I think I already touched about is the Devil's Egg,
Right.
which is at the end of each turn, the controller of the Devil's Egg site is 1 life. So that means that once you put this on your opponent's site, it's going to slowly chip away your opponent's life.
Hmm.
And it's a pretty good
And that's
card.
the end of each turn. Remember,
Yeah,
it's like your turn, my turn, 2 life gone.
yeah. Oh, yeah. So it's really nice to put it on your opponent's turn. Opponent's site, I mean. And the second one is land deed. Now, this is also an interesting one. And land
Oh my
deed is bearer has you control the site. So this is also, it's not as good as Magic Bells, but you
god.
actually take away 1 mana source out from your opponent. So this is actually supports the theme also. So this is really an interesting option you can have too.
Mhm.
And yeah,
I just love. I'm like. I'm just the whole deck here. I just am enamored with. Where it's like you didn't come here to make friends. You came here to like watch the world
yeah.
burn.
So it's about restricting mana source and stopping your opponent to play mid-range minions. So
Yeah.
this deck is actually specifically designed to try to destroy like Avatar of Earth, Air, Earth, mid-range kind of decks. That's
Mhm.
what it's actually trying to focus on. And there's also in the sites you have a Sinkhole, which is no element. I don't know. I don't know if I should say colorless because that's not actually a
Right.
term, but it
Yeah.
sacrifices sinkhole and you destroy a nearby site. So another site controller that you can have. So you basically control the your opponent's mana source, and you
And
are just keep shooting out cheap minions. So that's why just you will be restricting your opponents, but you're not going to be affected too much by using it.
and if they're
So this,
dropping anything big, I see you've got, your scorpions here with lethal. So you can
yeah,
start chipping away at that. So one of the problems sometimes I can have is I will find myself in a position where I seem to get off to a good start, but maybe I don't have the method then to finish off my
yeah,
opponent if I do get them to death's door. So
yes,
it looks
that's
like down the line here, you're going to mostly be finishing moves off with maybe fire bolts
yeah.
or
So there's three ways you can actually finish this. So there's firebolts, there's grapple shots. That's the two biggest way of doing it.
Mhm.
And this is where the Avatar Air really shines. Avatar for Air can just fly any of the minions
Mhm.
anywhere.
Oh,
So you can fly right in front of them and just grapple shot or whatever. You can do whatever with
so you
that.
can get really weird angles of attack
Oh
then.
yeah.
Yeah.
And also the other important thing is that the Avatar of Air can fly any unit. That includes your opponent's unit. So you can
Oh,
actually force, even if there could be blockers there, you can forcefully fly it somewhere else that the blockers can't access. And
that's
then
amazing.
you can finish it there.
That's
That's
even
the weird.
worse. That's so cruel.
Mhm.
Oh.
So there are, I guess, the only finisher here are firebolts and grapple shots.
Mhm.
But yeah, those
Or
sorts of yeah,
yeah, I guess Poison Nova only hits on minions, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
those are minions. Yeah. So
but
the
that's
other
great for
card,
removal.
yeah, yeah. So the other cards are more control-oriented support cards for this deck. So like firebolts, grapple shots are there to actually remove some of the potent minions that can interfere with you. Particularly, I use it with Sirocco Scorpions, which has lethal. So what you can do is you can just put that too, and if there's a huge minion comes out, you can just spot removal by using Grapple Shot.
Yeah.
Grapple
Okay.
Shot is also useful to get rid of the spiders, especially because I use Palabre bats. The
The root spider,
the
or
yeah, the roof spider, yeah, the roof spiders. So what I do is I keep it borrowed, and then I just shoot a grapple shot underground, right? To take them
it's
down. And because
Batman.
yeah, yeah, roof spiders are really annoying because it does like disable your minions, and
Hmm.
it does inhibit lots of actions that you can take. So yeah, I try to keep one of the bats underground when playing
And then
first,
just
so
in
that
case we have like a new player watching who's not familiar with some of the nomenclature of sorcery yet, they're still figuring things out. Quick reminder here: what's the difference between a unit attacking another unit and a unit maybe using grapple shot and striking a unit?
so an attack is basically an inherent it's it's an innate ability that all minions have. Um and it requires tapping to do your actions. And also your opponent can start declare blocks when you actually attack. Now, a grapple shot specifically mentions it strikes. Now, the difference between those attacks and this strike is that you can declare any blockers with this. That's the first important part. And also, you can do it even while your minions are tapped. So you can actually give a very surprising strike to your enemy
Hmm.
without them not being able to respond to it at all.
And so
So
they
this
won't
is a
hit
very
you back either, right? The strike's one
correct.
direction.
Yes. So that's why Grapple Shot is a very powerful card at this moment. And combined with Sirocco's Scorpions, you can just remove any uh, any uh, any minions of your choice
Right.
um, from the board. This is very nice combo to
Yeah,
use.
very
So,
powerful at the
yeah,
cost of having to spend 3 mana. Like you have to burn resources, but something needs to die. Grapple shotting a scorpion, that'll do it. How terrifying.
yeah, it's really nice. Yeah. And so the other cards are like some removals. And because I'm using Firebolts and Poison Nova, there's one particular meaning that I always have to look out, and it is Shield Maidens.
Hmm.
Now, Shield Maidens, maybe you want to pop out the card, I guess.
Yeah, I'll put them in post. Yeah.
So Shield Maidens is a minion that has a replacement effect that reduces 1 damage for every damage that's going to be dealt to nearby minions. So what's going to happen is that if you shoot firebolts, which is going to separate 3 1 damage uh, projectiles at your opponent, or well, any minions, it's going to completely null that damage, like all of
Hmm.
them. And Poison Nova, which only is going to deal 1 damage, well, that's going to be
Mm.
nulled. So it's completely going to get rid of my control methods. So what I do is I use Clamor of Harpies in the deck. And what Clamor
They're
of
just to
Harpies
eat shield maidens. Oh my god.
yes, that's what it's that is exactly what this card is supposed to do. And when you play against Earth, there's no reason not to use Shield. So you have to play these cards
Yeah.
to put it in. And what Clamor Harpy does is that at Genesis, it's going to teleport target weaker minion to this location, and Clamor Harpies may strike it. So what it does is Shield Maidens is a power 2 minion. So if you cast this, you can just spot removal those those nasty Shield Maidens, and you can progress your way through control of the board.
You mean destroy their one hope here against your day? You're like,
Yes, yes. It's very important to actually put these Clamor Harpies in. There's other uses, like you can remove some weaker minions out of the way so that you can use grapple shots. There's other ways you can also use it too. Also, there's minions like Tragedy Warlords, which
hmm
prevents magic damage, but removing those is also very good. Clamor Harpy is one of my favorite fire minions. It's very versatile, and I really like it.
That's fair. And then I see you have Chains of Prometheus as well here, and that's just
Yes.
to prevent some of the larger late game monsters that might be really, or minions that might be really, challenging for you to remove.
Yeah, so basically, I want to control their minion sources so that I can like maneuver with cheap minions or even attack directly from my avatar pair and keep them suppressed. So I do play Chains of Prometheus, which is a really good control card. You can just make most of your opponent's minions, be useless, and just remove the small minions with using Clamor Harpies and Poison Novas. And if they get another one, well, maybe I'll just infiltrate it, and you can completely control the board. So you use Chains of Prometheus, you combine it with those infiltrates, Chains of Prometheus, and remove the small minions with firebolts and everything, and just slowly drain the life away. And then in the end, you just finish it off directly with a firebolt or something. That's sort of the theme of this. So it's a very control centric a deck. Yeah, control centric deck. Now it's a very tricky deck though because of the Avatar of Air's movement.
Mhm.
So it is fairly, I will say, complex to maneuver.
But it's
When
when
you
you could
actually try to
practice
do it.
playing and get good at, right? Like you can.
Yeah.
So this would be a fun one. So we will link this in the comments below. I love also just to see how different people's like takes on deck building and the way different approaches come, whether it's thematic or certain particular combos. This one is so aggressively like denial. I like it's like putting these. Well, you said it's sort of like hateful, like putting devil's eggs on their side, and you're locking down their minions and stealing their land. I really like this sort of take on the list here. I'd be interested to see. Actually, I might try this one out here. So I get to play a lot with Ira, one of the game developers, who is quite skilled, uh, and it might be fun. I usually don't take this style approach. I might try and bust this out and see how it goes.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, this does well against Avatar of Earth. If your Avatar of Earth doesn't really know your opponent doesn't really know
yeah.
how this deck operates and goes aggressively, they can actually lose quite easily on this. If they actually know how to go around this. Now, the interesting about sorcery is that because you have this positional distance, um, you can actually hold back and build up before you attack, and this is a little bit interesting. And if your opponent knows what this deck is like, and if they hold back and start building up behind before attacking you, you can encounter a very more close match, I guess. That's more interesting. This is why I like sorcery, because if you change the way you approach your opponent, even with the same decks, you get
Hmm.
really different results.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I agree. Is that tactical depth, and even if you're playing, the precons, or if you just build even a deck, if you're just getting started, a deck of just ordinaries, like you can find that like the compensating factor sometimes is the way you play your cards, which is also somewhat challenging sometimes for me. Where I'm like, I see a deck like this that maybe is a play style that I'm not particularly used to, and I can't just copy it. Like I need to actually practice it, like learn and like think about how to actually maneuver it. But that's kind of part of
yeah.
the fun too. Well, this is fantastic. So we're going to include this as a link in the comments below if people want to try it out, and then let us know what your experience is with it. And if people want to connect with you online, where can they best find you and your content?
So first, my major content source is YouTube. So the YouTube channel, Wizards Den. I think Chase will put a
Yeah.
link up there or somewhere. I don't know. Yeah. And the second was I have a Twitter. I have Twitter. I don't really tweet too much, but I don't know. I'm not supposed to say Twitter. It's supposed to be Instagram.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's going to be called. But yeah, I have that. Uh, and the third one is Discord. Yes, I hang out in the rules channel, I guess, in the official Discord. That's my major playground, I guess, and I'll be there like looking for games and
Yeah.
everything. So
And I
it,
did mention that you were a head judge at Gen Con. You are a font of knowledge when it comes to rules and interactions. And in fact, actually, recently you've been doing a series on your YouTube channel, which has been fantastic, right? Where you're breaking down some of the frequently asked questions for sorcery. Um,
yeah, yeah, that's a new series that I started. It's a sorcery FAQ. That's what I call it. A sorcery TCG FAQ. That's the full title.
any other future projects or things in the pipeline that people should be keeping an eye out for on your channel?
Yeah, so I'm actually starting to fix up some of the contents. So in the old contents, I made how to play sorcery videos, and I'm trying to make a renewed version for
Hmm.
Rules 1.0. I think the old one was developed for Rules 0.8, so it's a little bit old, and some of the rules have changed. And also, that was sort of my first videos, so
Hmm.
it wasn't like the perfect video, anyways. So I'm sort of like, sort of making those right now. Those are the contents I'm working on right now. Yeah, and I'm also going to be working on other how to play those precons, how to add
Hmm.
them, like fix those precons so you can make it like I'll say like a pseudo constructed deck. Those kind of
Fantastic.
stuff.
Yeah, it's
It's
good to
so
have that like kind of scaling content, right?
yeah, yeah. So basically, I'll be working more on I'll say how to play
Yeah.
yeah, more like play centric videos. After all, my channel is more play centric, not much collectors or those kind of stuff. So
Mhm.
you'll I'll be updating those kind of new stuff
Oh,
right now.
fantastic! And once again, like not that I don't want to suddenly have you getting like pinged by hundreds of people, but like hanging out in the rules section of the Discord, you're often someone who can jump in and give some clarity if people have any questions and interactions. So if you're not in the official Sorcery Discord, make sure to check that out. And there's a ton of people there who are super helpful and always willing to jump in and help you with clarifying questions, or just if you want to just connect with other sorcerers out there. And I think with that being said, I think we're getting up to the end of our show here. So thank you so much for coming on, and thanks also for being such a pillar of the community. It was so cool getting to see you in action in person at Gen Con, not only with sharing of rules information, but also onboarding new people with learn to plays, and just hanging out with people and making it be a great time. So thank you so much for all that you do.
Oh, my pleasure. After all, the reason why I made this YouTube channel is that this game is really fun. And just like you go to LGS and show off your favorite games and try to, teach the other players to get them, join the club. That's what I'm trying to do. After all, what I'm trying to do is just aid the spreading of this game,
Yeah.
so that other people can enjoy it, and hopefully, this game grows big enough that there's going to be a Japanese translated version
Oh,
coming in.
there we go. Well, maybe we might know some people who can help with the translations if we need them. We'll see. Well, and then thank you everyone for tuning in. Be sure to check out Haine's channel, Wizard's Den on YouTube. And then in the meantime, good luck contesting the row.